History is a lie told by the victors, but sometimes the losers leave behind things they were never supposed to build. Imagine a world where the primitive ancients didn't just play with fire, they played with physics. We're talking about clockwork computers found in shipwrecks and heat rays that could incinerate entire fleets from the shore. These aren't just myths, they are physical evidence that our ancestors were holding the keys to the future until someone decided to lock the door. Power like that is dangerous. So dangerous that entire civilizations chose to bury it, burn it, or ban it from the history books entirely. Today, we're digging up the gear-driven ghosts that mainstream science wants you to forget. And trust me, number 5 will change how you see your own reality forever. Number 1, the sunken computer, 1901. A group of sponge divers is hiding from a storm near the tiny Greek island of Antikythera. They dive into the wreckage of an ancient Roman galley, expecting gold coins and marble statues. Instead, they pull up a corroded, calcified lump of bronze that looked like a worthless green rock. For decades, it sat in a museum basement, gathering dust, while the experts looked the other way. Then, X-rays revealed the impossible. Inside that rock were dozens of interlocking gears, precision cut to the millimeter, mapping the movements of the entire cosmos. This is the Antikythera Mechanism, the world's first analog computer. It was built 1,500 years before humanity supposedly invented the gear. It could predict eclipses, track the Olympics, and calculate the positions of planets with terrifying mathematical accuracy. But here's the kicker. After this ship sank, the technology didn't just evolve, it simply vanished. It's like finding a MacBook Pro in a pharaoh's tomb, and then watching humanity go back to drawing on walls for the next millennium. Did the library burn down, or was the blueprint for the future intentionally shredded? History tells us the Greeks were philosophers, not programmers. The Antikythera Mechanism says history is wrong. If they could calculate the stars in the palm of their hand, imagine what they were building on land that didn't survive the wreckage. But as strange as a Greek computer is, it's nothing compared to the weapon that could turn the ocean itself into a furnace. Number 2, the solar sniper. In 212 BC, the Roman Navy was the most terrifying force on the planet. They sailed toward the city of Syracuse, expecting a quick slaughter and an easy win. Instead, they met a 70-year-old mathematician named Archimedes, who had turned the sun itself into a sniper rifle. Legend says the Romans watched in confusion as the Greeks polished giant bronze shields and lined them up along the walls. Then, the first ship began to smoke. Seconds later, it wasn't just smoking, it was a floating bonfire, the wood screaming as it vaporized in mid-air. This was the heat ray, a series of mirrors focusing solar radiation into a single white-hot point of absolute destruction. For centuries, modern historians laughed this off as a tall tale from ancient fanboys. They said the physics didn't work, that the primitive Greeks couldn't understand optics at that level. But in 2005, MIT students proved them wrong by igniting a wooden boat using nothing but bronze-coated mirrors. It worked. It was real, and it was terrifying. So why did we stop using the power of the sun to defend our borders? Because Archimedes was killed during the siege, and his death ray blueprints were either stolen or burned to ashes by the Romans. The ultimate clean energy weapon, buried because it was too effective for the wrong side. But if you think a magnifying glass from hell is scary, wait until you see the battery that was powering the ancient world, thousands of years before Benjamin Franklin. Number 3, the Baghdad battery. Imagine digging a trench for a new sewer line and accidentally unearthing the birth of the digital age. In 1936, workers near Baghdad found a small, unremarkable clay jar. Inside sat a copper cylinder and a single rusted iron rod. To a casual observer, it looks like ancient junk. To a physicist, It looks exactly like a 2,000-year-old AA battery. The Baghdad battery shouldn't exist in a world that supposedly relied on candles and oil lamps. Mainstream archaeology hates this thing. They'll tell you it was just a container for sacred scrolls. Right? Because everyone knows scrolls stay fresh when you soak them in an acidic electrolyte solution like vinegar or lemon juice. When modern researchers built a replica and filled it with grape juice, it produced nearly 2 volts of electricity. Not enough to run a laptop, but plenty to gold plate a statue or give a miraculous electric shock to a non-believer touching a holy relic. The technology was simple, effective, and completely ignored by the history books for 2 millennia. It suggests that while we were figuring out the wheel, someone else was already tinkering with the grid. But if they had power in Iraq, what were they doing in the pitch-black tunnels of Egypt? Because what we found carved into the walls of Dendera makes a simple battery look like a toy. Number 4. Egypt's forbidden light. Deep beneath the Temple of Hathor in Egypt, there are rooms where the sun hasn't shone for millennia. These are the crypts, narrow stone hallways so tight they feel like they're breathing on you. Archaeologists noticed something disturbing the moment they entered. There was no soot on the ceilings. If you spend decades carving intricate art by torchlight, you leave black carbon behind. But these walls? They're as clean as a modern operating room. Then they found the carvings that shouldn't exist. Gigantic, transparent, bulb-shaped objects being cradled by Egyptian priests. Inside each bulb is a long, wavy serpent, or, if you're an electrical engineer, a glowing filament. At the base, a lotus flower connects to a thick cable that runs straight into a box. Mainstream Egyptologists will tell you it's a symbolic flower. Sure, because nothing says religion like a high-voltage vacuum tube and an insulated power cord. If the pharaohs had mastered light without fire, why did the world go dark for the next 3,000 years? It's almost as if the knowledge was pulled from the hands of the people and locked in a vault for the elite. But even a light bulb is just a tool. Our final entry is something far more dangerous, a machine that could bridge the gap between Earth and the heavens. And it's the reason why ancient flight is the one topic historians are terrified to discuss. Number 5. The anti-gravity chariots. In the ancient Sanskrit texts of India, they don't talk about magic carpets. They talk about Vimanas, massive metallic flying machines that moved with the speed of the wind and emitted a melodious sound. Mainstream scholars call these poetic metaphors, but metaphors don't usually come with detailed blueprints for Mercury vortex engines. In 1952, a manuscript called the Vaimanika Shastra was rediscovered, claiming to be an ancient manual for aeronautics. It describes alloys that don't corrode, glass that can withstand radiation, and pilots wearing suits made of vegetable silk. The skeptics laughed until NASA and independent researchers started looking at the Mercury vortex propulsion system. They found that if you rotate liquid mercury at high speeds in a magnetic field, you create an anti-gravity effect. The very technology we're currently testing for deep space travel might have been used to ferry kings across the Himalayas 5,000 years ago, but here is the darkest twist of all. The texts describe these machines carrying weapons that could incinerate a city with the brightness of 1,000 suns. Shortly after these gods left, the technology was scrubbed from the earth. Libraries were razed, and the Sanskrit manuals were hidden in secret monasteries or buried in the desert. The ban wasn't just on the machines, it was on the memory of them. Maybe because the people in charge realized that giving humanity flight before they mastered peace was a recipe for extinction. We like to think we are at the pinnacle of human achievement. But looking at these 5 impossible machines, it's clear we aren't pioneers. We're just scavengers trying to remember what we've already forgotten. History isn't a straight line, it's a circle, and we're just now coming back around to the start. That's all for today. Subscribe if you love discovering the dark side of everyday life, because some secrets were meant to stay buried, but we're going to dig them up anyway.